ॐ ध्यायामोऽधवलावकुण्ठनवतीं तेजोमयीं नैष्टिकीं स्निग्धापाङ्गविलोकिनीं भगवतीं मन्दस्मितश्रीमुखीं वात्सल्यामृतवर्षिणीं सुमधुरं सङ्कीर्तनालापिनीं श्यामाङ्गीं मधुसिक्तसूक्तिम् अमृतानन्दात्मिकामीश्वरी.
So before we can commence, we would like you to be mindful of a few things during the ceremony. So all the participants except the speakers are requested to please mute their microphones and switch off their cameras during the session to improve the bandwidth. Please keep your mobiles in silent or vibration mode and kindly refrain from eating or drinking during the session in front of the camera. We request you to be patient in the eventuality of any minor technical issues. And please save your questions for the discussion session towards the end of the session, where you will have the opportunity to send in your questions to the speakers. So without any further ado, let us move on to the event. We have all gathered together today for the MOU signing ceremony between Prerana and Amrita School of Social and Behavior Sciences, Amrita Vidyapeetham, for partnering in gender-related projects and research. Prerana is a civil society organization that started working in the red light areas of Mumbai in 1986 that serves the actual and potential women and children victims of commercial sexual exploitation and trafficking. Let me take this opportunity to introduce to you the esteemed speakers present here. We have here with us today Dr. Praveen Patkar, the co-founder and director of Prerana, Ms. Preeti Patkar, co-founder and executive secretary of Prerana, Ms. Kashina Kareem, the assistant director, anti-trafficking center, post-rescue operations Prerana, Dr. Bhavani Rao, Dean, School of Social and Behavior Sciences, Amrita Vidyapeetham, and Dr. Melton Alcoy-Akildis, Vice Chairperson, Department of Social Work, Amrita School of Social and Behavior Sciences, Amritapuri. To get further insights into the activities and the team of Prerana, I would like to invite Ms. Preeti Patkar, the co-founder and executive secretary of Prerana. A social worker by profession, she is internationally recognized and honored for her work in the field of ending intergenerational sex trafficking and child protection. She has innovated and piloted several free projects successfully. First, to end the intergenerational sex trafficking of children of commercial sex worker mothers, then the post-rescue operation, and later in the broader area of child protection and gender-based violence. A recipient of innumerable national and international awards, she has recently been appointed by the Supreme Court of India as a member of NALSA, the National Legal Services Authority. Ms. Preeti was also honored by the Vital Voices USA for protecting human rights. She is currently engaged in the training of police and other functionaries. Her contribution to disseminating insights, training, and networking and project monitoring are phenomenal. She substantially contributed to the specialization course in child rights and child protection at Amrita Vidyapeetham as a visiting faculty. And I also would like to note at this point the involvement of Dr. Dankasamy, who is also present here with us, the chairperson, Department of Social Work, Amrita School of Social and Behavior Sciences, Coimbatore campus, especially in the specialization with Ms. Preeti. I now invite you, ma'am, to please address the gathering.
Om Amriteshwariya Namaha. Pranams to everyone. Thank you, Revati ji. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Bhavani Rao for taking this initiative and leadership of exploring potential collaborations with us. In a short while, Dr. Praveen Patkar will be sharing more on this collaboration and the MOU. I take this opportunity to briefly introduce the work of Prerana. Prerana started its journey in Kamatipura in 1986, the then known as the largest red light area in Asia. Our focus was then and even today to end intergenerational trafficking into the sex trade, as every child born then in those brothels to the prostituted woman would be groomed by the time they were 12 and 13 years of age to be eventually sold into the sex trade or get recruited into the allied activities of the sex trade. Very often, when we speak of children being sold into the sex trade, we think it would be only with girl children. What we also saw was that boy children were also being groomed to be sold into the sex trade. Since then and now, Prerana aims to provide safe childhood to children born in the brothels of the red light areas and those rescued from the sex trade and other forms of sexual violence and exploitation, including neglect. We also work towards defending the rights of these children, helping them fulfill their potentials. The first ever night care center model started by us is considered as the model non-institutional alternative care service today in India to provide safety and protection to children, especially born in the red light areas. Currently, we run 4 night care centers spread over 3 red light areas, and we also run a children's home for girls in need of care and protection. Our scale model is through system strengthening by mentoring those who want to initiate similar services and programs and through trainings and capacity buildings of different stakeholders. Our anti-trafficking center model works on prevention, protection, rehabilitation, and supporting victims of trafficking and victims of sexual violence navigate through this justice system and ensuring that they are not re-victimized, they are not re-trafficked, and do not experience secondary traumatization. More on this program would be shared. Dr. Praveen Patkar and my colleague Kashina would be sharing more about our work under the Anti-Trafficking Center. Our primary purpose is to safeguard the rights of every children and community that we work with, ensure their well-being, ensure their voices are heard, that choices are created for them, and that dignity is restored. All our intervention is also aimed at reducing the risk of gender-based violence for all persons that we work with, ensuring all victims of gender-based violence have adequate and timely access to quality service that meets their needs and are ensured justice as defined by the people experiencing gender-based violence. Recently, we've added 2 more programs, one being the Sanman project, wherein we work with children rescued from begging, ensuring that they're given and are put on the path of sustained development and rehabilitation and are not brought back on the streets and into begging. In 2021, we started working with children affected by COVID, focusing mainly with children who lost single parents. And what we find is most of these families are now women-headed households. These women who are the single parents are experiencing deprivation of rights like their right to inheritance, etc., and also access to social security documents. Under this project, we are supporting children financially and through linkages, ensuring that they are not deprived of their education and also they receive support. Their adult caregivers receive support through livelihood skills, basically linking them to different livelihood skills, job placement, and also linking children and families to different government schemes and non-governmental services. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to hand over this virtual mic to Dr. Praveen Patkar. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share about our work.
Om Amriteshwarya Namaha. Pranams to everyone here. It is such a great day for me to be able to get into this memorandum of association, memorandum of understanding, and for some kind of a joint collaboration. Just now what Preeti explained was a range of or a spectrum of services that we run for the last more than 3 decades on 24/7 basis. There is also one more dimension to our activities, and that is cannot be captured in a single word called advocacy, but it is a kind of a group of several supportive activities. While we have a major service sector with something running, some of the services running for 24/7 basis, we also have a major advocacy and system strengthening sector of intervention on behalf of Prerana. Most of these activities come under the anti-trafficking center, which is a kind of a resource center. it was based on the kind of a presumption that no social movement can sustain itself or become stronger unless it has a sound and strong knowledge backup. While in beginning of 1990s, a kind of a fresh initiative was taken up all over the world to combat human trafficking by realizing that it is come back to most of the part of the world. A movement was expected, but no movement can actually gather momentum unless it is also supported by a strong knowledge backup. Sensing this, we started the Anti-Trafficking Resource Center way back in 1999 with active support of the US government. And if we go by the, yeah. So generally now we have a variety of contributions made to this field. Initially, it was a kind of an online resource center. Today, it was a kind of an offline resource center. Today, it is an online anti-trafficking resource center. And today, it is also considered as a very trustworthy and reliable knowledge partner in the fight against human trafficking and for strengthening child protection systems. The Anti-Trafficking Center pioneered many interventions and covered very extensively, did a lot of sensitization and training work, including that of police, judicial officers, government servants, semi-judicial body members, child protection unit members, and service providers, civil society workers, a lot of them. There was a regular capacity building component that was also built up, and under that capacity building, we took up for caregivers, primarily caregivers, functionaries, duty bearers, and other service providers. The ATC also pioneered information dissemination and research and documentation on a large scale, mainly researching into the areas where research is not very popular but needed. And some of the topics that I could just mention were the need to have a new law, the situation of anti-trafficking work, or situation of trafficking in most part of the country, doing case studies on that, then coming up with critique of policies and policy analysis. Recently, we did a study on intersectoral analysis of children found begging in public areas. Then when POCSO was introduced, after 4 years of POCSO, we did a study of what is happening with POCSO and how is it unfolding on the ground. There was topics like institutionalized commercial sexual exploitation and sex trafficking, such as what happens in the northwest part of India, in Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, or in Tamil Nadu, or in Andhra Pradesh, or pre-division Andhra Pradesh, for example. So we try to revisit the Devadasi system. We try to understand what are the non-institutionalized, non-religious forms of sex trafficking in the northern part of India. We did extensive work when the government of India tried to introduce a new law on trafficking in the year 2016, and the process is still on, and we are constantly coming up with our suggestions and comments which are considered as valuable by the government. We have done a lot of sensitization and training work, as I said, about police and judicial officers. We also did some kind of networking activity with other anti-trafficking partners in the field, such as the main anti-trafficking players, as well as others who were doing some kind of a supportive work, or the other who thought that they were doing irrelevant work. But for us, everyone was relevant and everyone could contribute, and therefore the principle that more the merrier was actually followed, and people who were not connected to one another, we tried to bring them together by forming and facilitating networking in many areas. We mobilized the legal resources, we mobilized the judicial offices and courts, and could manage to get several landmark orders and rulings from the High Court and the Supreme Court. Additionally, we run a couple of websites. One is, and I would definitely advise you people to visit them. Prerana anti-trafficking.org and fighttrafficking.org. We have recently added a kind of a Hindi extension to the website so that the people who are not very comfortable with English can still benefit from the website. And it's a website rich with knowledge resources and knowledge products. We have not neglected the other dimension, and that is that of creative and some kind of a literature or material making available for the common people who are not necessarily professionals by way of mass awareness and social awareness. So we did some kind of TV fillers of 40, 45, 50 seconds TV fillers, and one of them received silver at Cannes Film Festival in 2005. This MOU is not just a kind of a gesture of recognition for us. It's a kind of a great opportunity for us to learn, intensify our efforts, and strengthen ourselves to serve the cause better. Amrita University is an instrument that aims to translate Amma's compassion and services to humankind into reality. It also represents the pursuit of knowledge and technological excellence. It's a great opportunity for us to learn from the university and to contribute to its academic programs. We have suggested that we should go ahead with some joint activities as a kind of an open university, but we would be definitely interested in a number of collaborations which are research based, documentation based, creating learning and teaching resources, and actually trying to also contribute substantially to the academic programs at the university and learn from them. So I'm really looking forward to a great kind of a collaboration period between Amrita and Prerana. I must mention that Dr. Bhavani Rao is the leader at the center. At the other end of the MOU, our comfort level and positivity are immensely boosted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So those very inspiring words. I am really sorry that I apologize that due to technical issues, I missed the opportunity to introduce Dr. Patkar to the whole participants, but we don't want our participants and guests to miss this opportunity to know more about Dr. Patkar. So I'll just give the introduction now. Dr. Praveen Patkarji, who has talked to us right now, is a professional social worker and academician. For 40 years, he co-founded Prerana in the year of 1986 and later in 1999 founded Asia's first human anti-trafficking resource center, which has been supported by the US government since inception. He has made pioneering contributions to the knowledge base for the anti-human trafficking movement by way of research studies. In 2004, Dr. Patkar was nominated by the US government for the global position of UN Special Rapporteur on Human Trafficking. General Assembly of ECPAT, the co-host of 3 World Congresses Against Commercial Sexual Exploitation of Children, elected him unopposed as its global vice chairperson. He was an expert to India's National Commission for Women and Children Protection to SARC. As a Fulbright scholar, he taught and co-guided research at the University of Rhode Island, USA. He started Asia's first master's course in child rights and child protection at Amrita Vidyapeetham, where he was an adjunct professor on a visiting basis. Thank you, sir, and Preeti ma'am, for those wonderful, inspiring words. Now we will move on to the next speaker here from Prerana, Ms. Kashina Karim. Ms. Kashina Karim, a recipient of the Gandhi Fellowship and now of Acumen Fellowship, has been a part of Prerana since 2016. Starting as one of the few members of Prerana's post-rescue operations team, Ms. Kashina is currently the Assistant Director of the Anti-Trafficking Center, committed to strengthening the post-rescue operations model at Prerana. I invite you, ma'am, to kindly share your thoughts.
Thank you. I think Preeti and Sir have almost covered most of it. So I'm just going to take about 2 to 3 minutes to talk a little bit about the post-rescue operations program at Prerana. When we started the post-rescue operations program back in the 90s, there was a lot of focus. Even today, actually, if we see, there's a lot of focus given to raids and rescues that are conducted by the police. But not much was done in terms of post-rescue rehabilitation of the victims of sexual violence. Due to which what we often witnessed was that if there was an individual, if there was a child, or if there is a woman who was rescued from the sex trade, you would find that woman back onto the streets of Kamathipura or Falkland Road, the red light areas that we were based in, a couple of weeks to a couple of months after she was actually initially rescued. So because there was very limited efforts that were being taken for post-rescue rehabilitation of these victims, re-trafficking essentially was becoming a norm rather than the exception. And this is something that struck Prerana, and we decided to kind of work on post-rescue interventions and post-rescue rehabilitation of victims of commercial sexual exploitation and trafficking. And that's the journey, how post-rescue operations essentially began. If we look at the system today, we see that we work very closely with the juvenile justice system, because typically children who are rescued from commercial sexual exploitation and trafficking or any other victim of sexual violence today is treated as a child in need of care and protection, which is the larger ambit within the Juvenile Justice Act. So we work very largely with different stakeholders within the Juvenile Justice Act, both state as well as non-state stakeholders, for the rehabilitation of such victims. I'll quickly talk a little bit about what work we do when it comes to the rehabilitation of the victims. So typically when a victim is rescued from commercial sexual exploitation and trafficking or a victim of sexual violence, once the victim is referred formally into the juvenile justice system, there are essentially procedures that need to be done or undertaken in order to assess what kind of rehabilitation options would this child particularly need. So a kind of needs assessment, a comprehensive needs assessment is conducted, where a socio-economic assessment is conducted to understand what is the family background of this particular child, what is the social background, economic background of this child and the child's family. That's the kind of work that we do under the post-rescue operations program. Post which we also are involved very closely with different stakeholders in preparing a rehabilitation care plan for the child. So there are children who come into the system. If we talk about our experience of working with victims of commercial sexual exploitation and trafficking in particular, these are victims who may not have a very good educational background. Most of them in our experience have studied below the primary level of education in school. So what kind of rehabilitation options can be made available to this victim is something that we work around very closely. Mental health and physical health are other two aspects that we work on very closely, because sexual violence can be a very traumatizing incident and event in an individual's life. Working on mentally stabilizing this particular child, this victim, is very, very essential for them to even contribute to the process of rehabilitation, of education, of economic rehabilitation. So that's a huge component of the work that we do. Physical health as well. If there is a victim who's been involved in the sex trade for a very long period of time, there are also possibilities that may have had some impact on their physical health as well. So that is another area of intervention that we particularly focus on. Education, like I mentioned, is another component that we would like to give a lot of importance to. In certain cases, education may not be a priority for the victim because they've been away from the education system for an extremely long time. In those cases, we do look at vocational training options, which can bring them on the path of economic rehabilitation. We also try and support the victim in the journey of prosecution, because typically a victim of sexual violence, when a victim of sexual violence is brought into the system, it is also considered as a crime against the state. So an FIR is registered and the legal process goes on. Now, this entire legal process can also be extremely intimidating for a child and also the child's family. So here also we support the victim throughout the process of investigation, and also if they need assistance then during the process of trial. So that's also a kind of support that we extend. A lot of times, I think, like Preeti was also initially mentioning, the strength of Prerana's intervention and the work that we do is through partnerships and collaboration. So a lot of interventions and a lot of activities, on-ground activities that we end up doing in terms of education, in terms of vocational training, may not be something that we may do in particular ourselves, but we also do a lot of work through partnerships and collaborations, because we know there are organizations and civil society organizations that exist on the field that have their own expertise. So we tap on those local resources as well. I think Dr. Patkar spoke a lot about research and documentation, so I'm quickly just going to run through that bit. A lot of the research and documentation pieces that we have put together on fighttrafficking.org, the resource center that Dr. Patkar was speaking about, is basically our experiences, a lot of our on-field experiences. So in terms of case studies, if we've experienced if there are case studies where we have certain experiences that we would like to share, those case studies are something that we document and share through our online resource center. Besides that, we also do a lot of documentation around best practices. Preetita spoke about our night care center model. This is a model that has been acknowledged worldwide, and especially in the South Asia region. So that's a kind of a model that we document and put up on our online resource center. So various best practices that we have within the organization. We do the red light area mapping process every year. So every year we kind of understand how many brothels are there in a particular red light area that we are present in. Has there been an increase or a decrease from the previous year? How many commercial establishments are there, in that particular red light area? So these are some of our very on-field experiences that we try and document and put it up on our online resource center to kind of share our experiences with the larger public. There is one document that we actually released last year, which was the models of care document. So Prerana has done extensive work over the last over 3 decades, in terms of rehabilitation of victims of sexual violence, especially commercial sexual exploitation and trafficking. And we've largely derived 3 broad models of care within which we have worked in. So we've tried to kind of document this in the form of models of care, and there are 3 specific documents of 3 specific models that we had released last year on the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. And that is a kind of research that we've done, and it basically takes a reader through almost 30 years of Prerana's work experience on the field. So these are largely the research and documentation products that we as an organization are very conscious in working on. I think I would lastly want to talk a little bit about the latest work that this is not something that we've done only recently, but something that we are very focusedly doing now and hope to do for the next couple of years, is investments on family strengthening. So the Juvenile Justice Act and Prerana also largely has come from the belief that children need to grow up in families, and children should be institutionalized only as a measure of last resort. And we are currently also very actively working on documenting and also planning interventions on the field in terms of family strengthening. So what are the things that we could essentially do to strengthen the unit of a child and a family, right from providing limited financial assistance or temporary financial assistance to helping these children and families access government schemes and programs, and how can that be done in a sustainable manner, is something that we are largely invested in, and we hope to continue some of these efforts over the next couple of months to a couple of years as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing with us the extensive activities, interventions, and research work done by Prerana. Now we will have a short video of the activities by Prerana. I request the IT team to please play the video. you. Thank you, Team Prerana, for sharing that wonderful video. Now, let us hear more about the team and activities here at Amrita. We are delighted to invite Dr. Bhavani Rao, the Dean, Amrita School of Social and Behavior Sciences. Dr. Bhavani Rao is the UNESCO Chair on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, Amrita Vidyapeetham, and the Director of the Center for Women's Empowerment and Gender Equality and Ammachi Labs, the Human-Computer Interaction Research and Development Center at Amrita. A renowned and awarded researcher in the areas of learning technologies, disaster management, and vulnerability mapping, Dr. Bhavani heads the Women Empowerment Initiatives of Mada Amrita as Program Director. Since 2009, she has led many field and research projects funded by international and national institutions, including UNESCO, UNDEF, UNICEF, MSDE, DST, NSDC, NABARD, and so on. Her work focuses on technology-based learning, including vocational and life skills, for the purpose of solving social problems, leading to inclusive development of underserved communities, especially women in rural India. I cordially welcome you, ma'am, to please address the gathering.
Thank you so much, Pagati. Good afternoon to everyone. To the visionaries, Preeti and Pravinji, been friends for a really long time, to their wonderful teams, Kashina, and also to my colleagues here at Amrita, Dr. Ramaswamy, Dr. Melton, the entire team at the Center for Women Empowerment, Gender Equality, and Ammachi Labs, as well as our dear students who are doing their masters in social work and also their bachelor's integrated masters in social work. Very happy to be here. A day is just a day. What makes a day important is things that you pay attention to, which are important to you. And I think that's why this day is a very special day, an important day, especially for us here at Amrita and for me personally, because I think the saga of Ammachi Labs and the Center of Women Empowerment, Gender Equality has its roots in its first meeting with Dr. Praveen many years ago. I think it was in 2002 or 2003, when the Chancellor of the University, Amma herself, directly connected Praveen ji and Preeti ji to us and first explored the areas of working together. The first understandings of how complex problems can be and why a single solution doesn't answer, will never create the kind of impact that you want, and how solutions should be holistically designed. And this is something that I got a very deep understanding of from my very initial interactions with Praveenji. It was also because of the direct guidance of the Chancellor Amma and her specific instructions to work on women that led us to discussing with Praveenji and Preetiji, who Amma always refers to her children who work on helping women and children in who are sexually exploited and trafficked. So they have been the main resource and the main knowledge resource people that Amma had identified, and they have been, in that sense, the first gurus I've had in this particular topic. So to them, we really owe much of what has shaped the Center for Women Empowerment and Gender Equality and Ammachi Labs. This is the history of our relationship. So I think that I think most of the students at least know of the activities about Amrita and about the activities. Amrita is consistently now ranked as the top private institution in the country, and I'm sure all of you are proud to be studying in a very high-ranking institutions. Some of the people that have made the courses that you are right now taking so highly ranked and so highly rated are actually Preetiji and Praveenji, who have been instrumental in founding the social work department here at Amritapuri. So in so many ways, they have been at the root of the program. And that's why in so many ways, the relationship is as old as and as ever fresh. So when it's fresh, it's always new, but it's also has been there forever. And so it's almost like as a respect and an acknowledgement that we signed this MOU with very, very reputable organization, Prerana, with its leaders, Preeti and Pravinji. Again, I cannot begin to express how happy I am about this event and what I hope will actually this event will bring forth in terms of our students going and learning from Prerana, participating in the activities, supporting their activities, to have Preetiji and Pravinji sharing their knowledge, as they always have been, with the students at Amrita, and even more taking it beyond, doing actually work together, bringing in newer ideas and refining models that have already been worked on by both groups. Like I said, our work has been very heavily influenced by Preeti and Pravinji. Our social work programs have started under their guidance, but also all the activities that are done at Amachi Labs. So the focus on vocational training, the importance of an alternative form of livelihood and income generation, but also change and transferring the aspirations by using technology and introducing something that can break the vicious circle that actually plagues this environment. So the combination of actually using technology and vocational training was very much inspired by the conversations that we've had with Preeti and Pravinji. Also, the focus on women's empowerment, of course, came directly from the Chancellor, with the combination of women and vocational training, again, very much supported, very much influenced by both Preeti and Pravinji. In terms of having a knowledge-based approach, in terms of having a holistic systems approach. These are all things that Amrita, at least the Amachi Labs, the Center for Women Empowerment, Gender Equality, and the Social Work Program will be forever indebted to Preeti and Pravinji for setting these goals and defining how best to approach them. So this was more than talking about the work that we do, which most of you are already familiar with, and even Preeti and Pravinji are very familiar with. I was hoping that I could use this time to actually express our gratitude and our excitement on continuing the relationship, maybe in a much faster pace, with more tangible things come up. Because when two powerful organizations get together, the impact can be exponential. And this is what I hope for moving into the future. In terms of the center, we have a short video of the two centers, Amachi Labs and the Center for Women Empowerment, Gender Equality. The social work program is supported by and supports these centers and their works very closely. Again, we have two amazing programs in social work, three amazing programs in social work. One is the older one, and the more mature one is, of course, definitely in Etimada in Coimbatore. The dynamic and the younger one is in Amritapuri. And we hope that our program, and with the influence and guidance of stalwarts like Preeti and Pravinji, will create a generation of young, motivated, enthusiastic students who will be the transformative force of the country tomorrow. So we hope that our efforts in addressing these societal challenges are amplified by what we have been able to transfer to you. Thank you with that. I will play a quick video on some of the efforts that we have undertaken over here, and then Parvati can take us to the next step. So would the IT team play the video?
The Amachi Lab is the most creative way of empowering women. Of all of the projects which the UN funds around the world, this is the one dearest to our heart. It's the one we're most proud of, and it's the one that we intend to take to the rest of the world so that they can learn from what you have achieved.
The one critical way to survive in a changing environment is to make sure that you have the skills to survive in a changing environment. So we need to either continuously update our skills or acquire new skills to survive in this kind of an environment. We are a multidisciplinary group of close to 100 people. We have engineers, artists, artisans, videographers, social scientists, field workers, volunteers, and exchange students from around the globe, and all working to understand India's complex social problems and together build solutions. With vocational skills training, there's a huge component that you have to do with your hands. So how do you teach something with your hands by using technology?
Our methodology is the CVIT methodology. It stands for Computerized Vocational Education and Training. It's a blended learning approach for vocational and life skills. Till date, we have developed over 15 vocational courses and 20 life skills courses, and we have used it to train rural women and children across 21 states of India.
You can't throw technology at difficult social situations and expect it to get better. You have to take it there. You have to work very sensitively to see how it's going to fit into people's lives.
They spend their time in the villages along with our end users to really understand their issues from a place of empathy and of connection. Our vision of gender equality is inspired by our Chancellor's words. Women and men are of equal value, like two wings of a bird, for without the two in perfect harmony, humanity cannot progress. We hold India's only UNESCO chair in the area of gender equality and women's empowerment. Our research goal is to further women's empowerment and gender equality as a community agenda in harmony with the environment towards a sustainable future. While addressing problems in villages, we work with women to identify what vulnerabilities they have and co-design interventions with them, one of which we're really proud of is addressing the need for toilets. We taught women to build and maintain their own toilets, and after they mastered these skills, they mobilized the community towards ending open defecation. Some now earn a living by building toilets for others in the village. It's a win-win situation. It's a community-led total sanitation approach. Some of our women leaders were even honored by the President of India for their efforts towards ending open defecation. This was a huge achievement and a source of inspiration for all.
आपने शौचालय के निर्माण के लिए जो बहनों को मिस्त्री का काम सिखाने का अभियान चलाया है, वो सचमुच में ह्यूमन रिसोर्स डेवलपमेंट, स्किल डेवलपमेंट का एक बहुत बड़ा काम है। बहनें और बेटियां स्वच्छता की दूत तो पहले से ही थे, अब आपने स्किल और सशक्तिकरण को भी इससे जोड़ा है।
We integrate life skills throughout our training programs. To us, it is as important, if not more, than vocational skills. These trainings strengthen the socio-democratic voice and economic empowerment of women. It expands the collective empowerment space of women. We have had a lot of firsts. We have trained India's first women plumbers. We have built the first haptic simulator in the country. We have had tribal women launch Kickstarter campaigns to fund their businesses. All this could not have happened were it not for the guidance, the vision, and the opportunity given by our Chancellor, Shri Mata Amrita Devi.
Thank you, ma'am, for those inspiring words towards future and acknowledging the journey before. So now we will have Dr. Melton Dr. Melton Alcoyakildes, an alumnus of LMU Germany, is an expert in educational sciences and psychology with special focus on compassion. Dr. Melton, who is associated with Amrita Vidyapeetham since 2017 in academics and research projects, is currently the Vice Chairperson, Department of Social Work, Amrita School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Amritapuri campus. We would now request Dr. Melton to enlighten the audience on the future directions of the MOU. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Parvati, for this warm welcome. Yeah, indeed, I am, and I can surely say for all of us, we are really very honored. And I'm also honored to give a glimpse of the future potential of the significant MOU here in this great and wonderful event. From the perspective of our students and the entire faculty of the Department of Social Work, we can firmly state we are indeed fortunate to be part of Prerana now. The fruitful future of the MOU can range rich, such as the submission of joint proposals, joint projects in the context of child protection and education, gender equality, gender-based violence, exchange on an academic level and research, development of joint field projects or methodologies, especially exploring the options of unique certification programs such as social service worker certificates, developed through the vast experience on the grassroots level, are indeed not only a nice to have, but a profound necessity and upgrade of the skill set for the entire institution. We are more than looking forward to translating the momentum of understanding into action all together so that we can grow, continue to strive high, so that we also can support our future social worker, as Dr. Bhavani stated very correctly, vision she laid out here for the entire school, and to strive to continuously become a better version of themselves from the perspective of the students on a personal but also on a professional level. So I kept myself short. We could talk much longer about the fruitful potential of this great and wonderful MOU, but I would stop now with this final sentence that we are more than looking forward, Preeti ma'am and Pravinji sir, to collaborate with and learn from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. Now, we will display the MOU sign between Prerana Mumbai and Amrita School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Amrita Vidyapeetham, to mark the event. We request the IT team to please present the MOU. Thank you, team. So the floor is now open for discussion. Participants are now welcome to send in their queries to these esteemed speakers. You may send in your questions using the chat box in the following format. You can have your name, the name of the speaker to whom the question is addressed, and the questions. We wish you will utilize this opportunity to interact with these esteemed speakers that we have right here with us. So please go on posting your questions in the chat box.
Would it be possible for me to ask a question of the students, Parvati?
Sure, ma'am. We have very short time now, so we request you to please make it faster so that you won't miss this opportunity to interact with such esteemed persons present here.
I believe Bhavanti is muted.
I was saying I'm having problem posting my question. I was wondering if I could just ask it. Some reason it's not typing it down. It says that you're not on the call. So is it okay if I can just ask the question? My question is to the S2 MSW students who are in the camera over there. I was just going to ask them a question. How many of you are aware of the problems with sexual exploitation and trafficking? Is it something that you are familiar with? Is it something that is completely new to your thing? You're just you're freshers. You probably have only a little bit of exposure. But I was just wondering, in your lives, have you come across this issue ever before, or is it something that has only been introduced to you in terms of your education? Just a quick question, just to have an idea of how much of general awareness is there in the class on sexual exploitation and trafficking. The S2 MSW students who are on the camera, I can see you. Would one of you please answer the question? Everyone is very, very ardently looking at their tables. So I'm assuming that there's something happening on their tables that that we cannot see.
To our students also directly, they would share their perspective.
You think maybe you think they cannot hear us? That's what is happening. Okay. I think I will pick up on this question on class so they can anticipate that. I think maybe Abhijit wanted to ask a question. Okay, if there is no question, maybe Parvati, we can wind up the program.
Sure. So since we don't have much questions here, we'll move ahead. So before we bring the ceremony to, I think we have a question. Do we have time to take up one question, ma'am?
Yes,
possible? Yes. Yeah, we have a question from Sitara GS to Ms. Kashina, ma'am. So the question is, as a social worker, how can we change the victim shaming within the system? Ms. Kashina, ma'am, if you are here, you have a question from Sitara GS.
I think Kashina is having some technical problems, though she probably is appearing to be here. I think she cannot. Yeah, she's facing some technical problems. So Praveen, do you want to take it forward? Do you want me to take up this question?
Will you please
okay, so I think this is a really very relevant question, victims being shamed. So as an organization, we are addressing it at different levels. One is empowering the victim to handle such a situation. Very often we feel that, it's the people around her who need to change and understand the situation. But I think it's very, very important. In Prerana, we think it's very, very important that, this aspect of bullying, we bring shaming under the aspect of bullying. Needs, the person who's experiencing this kind of a treatment should themselves be empowered to address it, to, also to overcome the fears around this kind of experience. And simultaneously, we do a lot of work which we call as peer support. We feel that is also very important when we when we are addressing issues around bullying. And third is, using, talking about this at every platforms that we can, educating people about, what bullying does to the person experiencing it, and how this is a form of violence, and that it needs to be stopped immediately. So, working at different levels. And finally, we talk a lot about child friendly procedures. And I think we include this aspect in child friendly procedures. We often tell people in our trainings that, child friendly do not stop at creating child friendly environments and procedures by just painting the walls of your physical structure. Go beyond that. And what does it mean going beyond that? And going beyond that means addressing issues like shaming, bullying people, etc. So I think these are the different layers we address it. And of course, today we have the mass, social media, and all the students are so active on social media. I really urge them to use social media for causes like this, to create that much needed discussion around issues like shaming and bullying. So this is what we continuously keep doing within the organization. Thank you, and I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, ma'am. Hope, Sitara, you got the answer for your question, and thank you for utilizing the opportunity that was available to you. Now, due to time constraints, I think we'll move forward with the event. So before we bring the ceremony to a formal closure, I would now request Ms. Vidya Sheshadri, Associate Director, Center for Women's Empowerment and Gender Equality, to propose the vote of thanks and conclude the event.
Thank you so much, Parvati. Amrita. So we've come to the end of today's program, very special program. And although, we really are one big Amrita family, with Praveenji and Preetiji having been associated with Amrita from well before the conception of Ammachi Labs and the Center for Women's Empowerment and Gender Equality, as Professor Bhavani shared earlier. I really do feel very honored to be able to extend, on behalf of Amrita, our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this MOU ceremony a success, officially bonding our respective groups together, Prerana and the Center for Women's Empowerment and Gender Equality. And having been associated with Prerana for quite some time now, I know that many of us at the center are not shy, and in fact very proud to admit that Preetiji and Praveenji have quite a fan club following here at the center. And some might even call themselves the presidents of those fan clubs. I'm just joking. And that is because, like Amma, our chancellor, they walk, live, and breathe the talk of social service to society. They represent really the epitome of social work. They show us how it's done. So to be able to learn from them, to learn from and work with such legends in the field is an opportunity we are extremely privileged to have. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank everyone at Prerana, Preetiji, Dr. Praveenji, and Kashinaji, as well as those at the Center for Women's Empowerment and Gender Equality, Dr. Bhavani Rao, Nyananan Sato, Vidya Mulyan, who were collectively instrumental in facilitating the creation of this MOU. A special thank you as well to Dr. Rangasamy, head of the social work program at under the School of Social Behavioral Sciences at our Coimbatore campus, for his continued support, and of course, Dr. Malcolm Okayak, Vice Chair of the school's MSW program at our Amritapuri campus. And thank you to our IT team for helping to facilitate this event. And last but certainly not least, we are grateful to our Chancellor, Amma, for continuing to serve as our guiding light and the source of inspiration for all of us here. Finally, thank you to everyone who attended today's program to commemorate this very special occasion. We will now close with a prayer for world peace. Aditi?
Om Lokaah Samastaah Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaah Samastaah Sukhino bhavantu lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all.
Thank you, Preeti ji. Praveen ji, we'll stay in touch and we'll start working on things that are important, that we have listed out as important.
Thank you so much.
Take
Thank you.
care and hope to see you here soon.
Yes, definitely. We are reaching there. First flight.
High time. Too long. 2 years is too long. 2.5 years is too
I
long.
know,
Please
that
come
was too
soon.
long.
Come soon. Come soon.
Yeah. Thanks for all this. Okay.
Have a
Bye.
wonderful weekend.
You too.
Preeti ji, Namah Shivaya. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Nandini and Saumya and Yananand.
Thank you.